Late-night TV exploded with drama as action star Jon Bernthal walked off the Jimmy Kimmel live set after the host crossed the line. What started as a simple interview to talk about Bernthal's new movie turned into a shocking showdown that has the internet buzzing with anger toward Kimmel's unprofessional behavior. The bright studio lights shined down on the Jimmy Kimmel live stage last night as the audience cheered wildly. Everyone was excited to see Jon Bernthal, the tough guy actor known for his roles in The Punisher and The Walking Dead, who was there to talk about his new action movie Vengeance Road. Jimmy Kimmel started the interview with his usual smile, but something felt off from the beginning. The audience could sense a strange tension in the air. "So Jon Bernthal joins us tonight," Kimmel said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "The man who plays tough guys but couldn't make it as a real tough guy in Hollywood." The audience's laughter was mixed with confused looks. That opening line seemed meaner than Kimmel's usual jokes. Bernthal kept his cool, smiled politely, and tried to steer the conversation toward his new film. "Thanks for having me, Jimmy. Yeah, I'm really proud of this movie. We worked really hard to—" "Hard work?" Kimmel interrupted, cutting him off. "That's not what I heard. Word around town is that you're difficult on set. Is that why Marvel hasn't called you back for more Punisher?" The audience went silent. This wasn't normal talk show banter anymore. Bernthal shifted in his seat, but kept his composure. "I don't know where you're getting that information, Jimmy. I pride myself on being professional. The Punisher situation has more to do with business decisions than anything personal." "Business decisions," Kimmel repeated with a mocking tone. "Right, just like it was a business decision when you got fired from that David Simon project years ago? Or was that something else?" People in the audience started looking at each other with wide eyes. Kimmel had clearly come prepared with personal attacks. Bernthal took a deep breath. "Jimmy, I'm not sure where you're going with this, but that's not accurate information. I've had a great relationship with David Simon across multiple projects." The actor was trying to remain calm, but anyone watching could see the muscles in his jaw tightening. Still, he kept his voice steady and professional. "Let's talk about the movie," Bernthal suggested. "The stunt work was incredible and—" "Speaking of stunts," Kimmel jumped in again, "is it true that you use stunt doubles for scenes that other action stars would do themselves? I mean, Tom Cruise does his own stunts at 60, but you need help at 47. The camera caught Bernthal's expression changing from surprise to hurt, then settling into something more serious. This wasn't playful teasing. Kimmel was trying to embarrass him. "That's not how film production works, Jimmy," Bernthal explained, patiently. "Every production has different insurance requirements. And honestly, most actors use stunt doubles for dangerous scenes. That's normal in the industry." The audience seemed to be on Bernthal's side now, with some uncomfortable murmurs spreading through the crowd. But Kimmel wasn't finished. He pulled out a card as if he had prepared notes specifically to attack his guest. "You're always playing these tough guys, these fighters and gangsters," Kimmel continued. "But I heard you froze up on the set of Fury when the real military advisors were there. Brad Pitt had to cover for you because you couldn't handle the real training." Several audience members gasped audibly. This was crossing a line that talk show hosts almost never cross. Bernthal sat up straighter. "Jimmy, I've worked with military veterans for years. I train with them, support their causes, and have nothing but respect for their service. What you're saying is completely false and honestly disrespectful to the work we all did on that film." For a brief moment, Kimmel seemed to realize he might be pushing too far, but instead of backing down, he doubled down. "Let's talk about your charity work then," Kimmel said with a smirk. "You run that program teaching acting to troubled kids, right? Is that because you relate to them so well, given your own troubled past? 3 arrests before you turned 20, wasn't it?" The audience went completely silent. Even the band looked uncomfortable. Bernthal's face hardened, but he still maintained remarkable control. "I've been open about my past mistakes, Jimmy. That's exactly why I work with those kids, to help them find better paths than I initially took. I'm proud of that work. Well, some people are saying you're just doing it for the publicity, Kimmel pressed. Hollywood loves a good redemption story, right? Bernthal finally showed a flash of anger. Some people? Who exactly is saying that, Jimmy? Because anyone who knows me or has worked with those kids knows better. The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut with a knife. The show's producers could be seen frantically discussing something off camera. Kimmel glanced toward them briefly before turning back to Bernthal, with a slight smile that seemed almost pleased with the discomfort he was causing. "Let's move on to your family life," Kimmel said, ignoring the warning looks from his staff. "You're always talking about being a family man, but you're away filming constantly. How does that actually work? Do your kids even know who you are?" That comment hit a nerve. Jon Bernthal was known for being protective of his family life. His entire body tensed, and for the first time, his carefully maintained composure began to crack. "I think we need to be careful here, Jimmy," Bernthal said, his voice low but firm. "My family is not part of this conversation." But Kimmel wasn't stopping. "I'm just asking what many people wonder. You play all these violent characters and then go home to your kids. That's got to mess with their heads, right? Or are you just not home enough for it to matter?" The audience began to murmur with disapproval. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was becoming uncomfortable to watch. Bernthal set his jaw and looked directly at Kimmel. "I came here to talk about my work, not to have my family disrespected on national television." "It's just questions, Jon," Kimmel replied with fake innocence. "Can't handle tough questions? I thought you were supposed to be one of the tough guys of Hollywood." The studio fell completely silent as everyone watched to see what would happen next. Jon Bernthal took a slow, deep breath, unclenched his fists, and leaned forward in his chair. When he spoke again, his voice was calm, but had a dangerous edge to it. "Let me make something clear, Jimmy. I came on this show as a guest to talk about a movie that hundreds of people worked hard on. I didn't come here to be insulted or to have my family brought into whatever game you're playing tonight." The camera caught a flash of something in Kimmel's eyes. Not regret, but almost excitement at getting a reaction. "Oh, come on, it's just a bit of fun," Kimmel said with a dismissive wave. "That's what we do here. If you can't handle a few jokes, maybe you're not as tough as the characters you play." "This isn't about being tough," Bernthal replied. "It's about basic respect, something that seems to be missing tonight." A few audience members clapped, showing their support for Bernthal. This seemed to irritate Kimmel even more. "Respect?" Kimmel scoffed. "Hollywood is full of fake people pretending to respect each other. Let's be real for once. Everyone knows you only got the lead in this new movie because Channing Tatum turned it down first." Bernthal's eyebrows shot up. "That's completely untrue," he said firmly. "I was the director's first choice. We've worked together before." "That's not what I heard," Kimmel pressed, clearly enjoying pushing Bernthal's buttons. "In fact, I heard they almost recast you halfway through because you couldn't handle the action scenes. Is that why they pushed the release date back?" The audience was getting increasingly uncomfortable. This wasn't the fun, light-hearted Jimmy Kimmel most people knew from TV. Something was definitely off tonight. One of the show's producers stepped closer to the stage, possibly ready to intervene, but Kimmel waved her away without the cameras catching it. "The release date changed because the studio wanted a better spot in the summer schedule," Bernthal explained patiently, though his patience was clearly wearing thin. "And for the record, the director has publicly said, 'I did all my own fights in this film.' You could have checked that before making false claims on air." Kimmel laughed, but it sounded hollow. Right. Speaking of checking things, I did. Check into that charity of yours. Interesting how much money goes to administrative costs. Care to explain that?" At this, Bernthal's expression darkened significantly. The charity work he did with at-risk youth was something he truly cared about. "That's a serious accusation, Jimmy," he said, his voice dropping lower. "Our financial reports are public. Less than 10% goes to administration, which is well below average for nonprofits. The rest goes directly to programs helping kids stay off the streets." Some audience members were now openly showing their disapproval of Kimmel's behavior, with hushed conversations and shocked expressions. "If you say so," Kimmel shrugged, making it clear he didn't believe Bernthal. "Let's move on to something else. Your wife was a nurse before you got famous, right? Does she miss having a real job instead of just being an actor's wife now?" The mention of his wife was the final straw. Bernthal stood up abruptly, causing Kimmel to flinch back slightly. "We're done here," Bernthal said firmly. "You can make fun of me all you want, but my family is off limits." Kimmel tried to play it off with a laugh. "Whoa, sit down. Can't take a joke? This is why people say you're difficult to work with." "This isn't a joke, Jimmy," Bernthal replied, remaining standing. "And for the record, I've worked with the same crew members across multiple projects because we respect each other. Something you clearly know nothing about." The audience was now completely on Bernthal's side, with some people actually standing up in support. A woman in the front row shouted, "Leave him alone, Jimmy!" Kimmel seemed startled by the audience turning against him. He tried to salvage the situation with his typical humor. "Everyone relax. We're just having a conversation here. No need to get so serious." "No, what we're having is you trying to embarrass me for ratings," Bernthal shot back. "You invited me here under false pretenses. You haven't asked a single, genuine question about the movie or my work." Kimmel's smile faltered for a moment. "That's not true. I was going to get to the movie." "Were you?" Bernthal interrupted. "Because all you've done is make false accusations about my career, my charity work, and my family. That's not an interview. That's an ambush." The audience erupted in applause, clearly agreeing with Bernthal's assessment. Kimmel's face flushed red as he realized he was losing control of the situation. "Look, if you can't handle tough questions, that's not my problem. Maybe this business isn't for you." "Tough questions?" Bernthal repeated incredulously. "You haven't asked a single legitimate question. You've just made a series of false statements designed to provoke me." The tension in the studio was reaching a breaking point. The bandleader looked deeply uncomfortable, and the camera caught several staff members frantically discussing what to do. Kimmel tried to regain control. "Let's take a step back. Tell us about your character in the movie. He's a former criminal. Trying to go straight, right? Kind of like your own past." "Stop," Bernthal said, raising his hand. "Just stop. I've been patient, I've been professional. But this ends now. Either we have a real conversation about the film, or I'm walking off." The audience was completely captivated by the confrontation. No one had ever seen a guest stand up to Kimmel like this before. "Fine," Kimmel said, finally seeming to realize he had pushed too far. "Tell us about the movie, then." Bernthal stayed standing. "No, I don't think so. You've shown tonight that you're not interested in having a real conversation. You just wanted to ambush me with personal attacks." Kimmel's face hardened. "You're being overly sensitive. It's just TV. Sit down and finish the interview." "No," Bernthal said firmly. "What you're doing isn't entertainment. It's bullying. And I won't be part of it." The audience broke into more applause, louder this time. A few people even stood up, showing their support for Bernthal. Kimmel looked around at the audience betraying him, his expression a mix of shock and anger. This clearly wasn't how he expected the night to go. "So what? You're just going to walk off?" Kimmel challenged. "Prove everyone right about you being difficult?" Bernthal shook his head. "No, I'm going to show what actual professionalism looks like. Something's clearly going on with you tonight, Jimmy. But whatever it is, it doesn't give you the right to treat people this way." The audience fell silent again, waiting to see what would happen next. Kimmel's face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. He wasn't used to losing control of his own show, especially not to a guest. "You know what, Jon?" Kimmel said, his voice tight. "Maybe you should just go. We'll find someone else to promote your movie, someone who can take a joke." Bernthal nodded slowly. "I think that's the first honest thing you've said all night." He turned to address the audience directly. "I'm sorry, folks, but I won't stay where I'm not respected. I came here in good faith to talk about a project I'm proud of, not to be insulted." To everyone's surprise, the audience broke into supportive applause. Several people even stood up, showing their support for Bernthal's decision to stand his ground. Kimmel looked around at the audience reaction with disbelief. His face showed a mix of shock and growing realization that he had miscalculated badly. "Oh, come on," Kimmel scoffed, trying to win back the crowd. "This is ridiculous. It's just an interview." "No," Bernthal replied firmly. "It's not just an interview when you attack someone's family and spread lies about their character." One of the producers rushed onto the stage, whispering something in Kimmel's ear. Kimmel waved her away impatiently. "Fine, fine," Kimmel said, clearly trying to salvage the situation. "I apologize if I offended you. Now can we please just finish the segment?" But the apology came too late and sounded insincere. Bernthal shook his head. "That's not how respect works, Jimmy. You don't get to say whatever hurtful things you want and then expect a half-hearted apology to fix it." Bernthal turned to look directly at the main camera. "To everyone watching at home, Vengeance Road opens in theaters this Friday. It's a story about a man who learns that real strength comes from standing up for what's right, not from bringing others down." The audience applauded again, even louder this time. Bernthal began removing his microphone, making it clear he was indeed walking off the show. "Wait, you can't just leave in the middle of the show," Kimmel protested, real panic now showing in his voice. "We've got 4 more minutes in this segment." "Actually, I can," Bernthal replied calmly. "And maybe those 4 minutes would be better spent reflecting on how you treat your guests." As Bernthal turned to walk off stage, Kimmel made one last desperate attempt to save face. "This is exactly why people say you're difficult to work with," Kimmel called after him. "You can't even finish a simple interview without having a tantrum." Bernthal stopped and turned back. The studio was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. "What you're doing right now, Jimmy, that's bullying. And the only way to deal with bullies is to stand up to them. I've been teaching that to my kids and to the kids at my foundation. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't follow my own advice." A woman in the front row stood up and started clapping. Then another person joined in, and another, until most of the audience was on their feet, applauding Bernthal's words. Kimmel's face showed a mix of anger and the dawning realization that he had completely lost the room. He gestured frantically to the show's band leader for help. Let's go to a commercial break," the band leader said awkwardly into his microphone. "No," Kimmel snapped. "We're going to finish this interview." But Bernthal was already walking toward the exit. 2 security guards moved to block his path, likely following standard procedure for unexpected situations. "Let him go," came a voice from offstage. It was one of the executive producers. The security guard stepped aside, and Bernthal nodded appreciatively to them. Just before reaching the exit, Bernthal turned one last time to address the audience. "Thank you all for your support. In my new film, my character learns that sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. I guess life really does imitate art." With that, he walked through the exit door and was gone. The studio erupted into chaos. Some audience members were standing and applauding, while others looked confused or shocked by what they had witnessed. The show's staff rushed around frantically, trying to figure out what to do next. Kimmel stood alone on stage, his face a mixture of anger and disbelief. For once, the quick-witted host was completely speechless. The band leader, trying to salvage the situation, quickly started playing music. The producer was frantically signaling to cut to commercial. "We'll be right back," Kimmel finally managed to say, his voice lacking its usual confidence. The on-air light went off, but the cameras kept rolling as Kimmel stormed off stage, ripping off his microphone and throwing it at a nearby assistant. Meanwhile, backstage, Jon Bernthal was gathering his things to leave. Several staff members approached him, some looking worried, others appearing sympathetic. "Mr. Bernthal, I'm so sorry about what happened," said a young production assistant. "That wasn't normal. I don't know what got into Jimmy tonight." "It's okay," Bernthal replied kindly. "Some days are just tough for people, but that doesn't make it okay to take it out on others." The show's executive producer hurried over. "Jon, please, we can fix this. Come back tomorrow. Jimmy will apologize properly and we can do a real interview about your movie." Bernthal shook his head. "I appreciate the offer, but no. Some lines once crossed can't be uncrossed. I think it's better for everyone if we just move forward." As Bernthal walked toward the exit, his phone was already buzzing with notifications. The incident had been broadcast live, and social media was exploding with reactions. By the time he reached his car, the hashtag #BernthalWalksOut was already trending nationwide. Clips of the confrontation were being shared thousands of times per minute. Bernthal's publicist called as he settled into the back seat of his waiting car. "Jon, are you okay?" she asked, sounding worried. "I'm watching the feeds. This is blowing up everywhere." "I'm fine," he assured her. "How bad is it?" "Bad for Kimmel, good for you," she replied. "People are overwhelmingly on your side. You stood up to him with class. The studio might be upset about the movie promotion, but honestly, this is getting you more attention than a normal interview ever would." Bernthal sighed. "That wasn't my intention. I just couldn't sit there and take it anymore." "Well, your integrity is what people are responding to," his publicist said. "The studio just called. They want to book you on 3 other talk shows this week. This could actually help the movie." As his car pulled away from the studio, Bernthal looked back at the building where the show was likely still in chaos. He hadn't wanted things to end this way. He'd been looking forward to talking about the movie, about the hard work everyone had put into it. But sometimes life had other plans. His phone buzzed again. It was a text message from his wife. "Just saw what happened. So proud of you for standing up for yourself and for us. Coming home now?" Bernthal smiled and typed back, "Yes, coming home." Sometimes walking away wasn't running from a fight. Sometimes it was the fight itself. And tonight, Jon Bernthal had won by choosing dignity over drama, respect over ratings. By morning, Jimmy Kimmel would be facing serious questions about his behavior, while Jon Bernthal would be celebrated for showing what real strength looks like. The car drove off into the night, leaving behind a studio in turmoil and a host who had just learned a valuable lesson about respect. The hard way.